Hello, welcome from Wrocław, the Polish capital of media art. I'm Agnieszka Kubicka-Dzieduszycka and I am curator and project manager associated with the WRO Art Center, and I will be moderating and hosting this talk today. This talk is devoted to the synthesis project that actually takes place between Wrocław and Helsinki. Yesterday, we have launched the 19th edition of the Media Art Biennale WRO 2021, titled REVERSO. And this talk belongs to the extensive program of opening events. We have 3 days of exciting program, but actually the WRO Biennial will go until December with changing exhibitions, performances, screenings, talks, and other events. Well, in the second pandemic year, we are still experiencing the reverse side of almost all processes shaping our private, professional, and social lives. Obviously, this shaky new global order has impacted also the way we produce and get in touch with artifacts and cultural productions. In the course of preparations for WRO 2021, these issues of hybrid activity and limited participation in the physical world, difficulties in direct contact with art and artistic events were particularly emphasized. We have tried to develop a number of practices in response to the limitation of direct contact with artworks, their shared experience and reception. With WRO 2021, we are going to look at the other side of reality and art shaped by technology. We will give the voice to the artists and elaborate on the perception of their works as a source material of events adapting to the new, non-obvious, complex conditions of presenting contemporary art. So that is the general framework of our talk today. Now I would like to discuss our topic. So what is synthesis? Synthesis was meant to be a long-term collaboration with the Helsinki Artists Association. And when we started this, to plan this project in the spring of 2019, we just thought of using established conventional formats of international artistic exchange. So there was a plan of study tours, of short residencies. We wanted to go to Wrocław and Helsinki. We wanted to meet new artists, to see their studios. And first of all, we wanted to get inspirations from these direct meetings. So even the first study trip to Wrocław took place as Maria Brignon, the director of HA, visited us here. And then you know all what happened then. The forced annihilation of all social interactions has turned all our plans upside down, also revealing the impermanence of these routine administrative procedures that were meant to be proper for international artistic collaboration. So the proof of the initial inspiration of the direct encounters, of the conversations, of getting to know each other and the artworks, of exploring the new spaces, we just had to reconstruct, to rethink our basic plan. And at that time, my fellow colleague from WRO and great Polish artist, Paweł Janicki, decided to share with us a piece of software. Actually, it was rather a sketch. It was titled Synthesis. And this piece of software not only provided the space for our remote collaboration, but also gave the title to this project. So the acceptance of lack, the acceptance of limitations opened up new perspectives for us. We have reformulated our goals. We have shifted the emphasis from effects into the processes. the way we rearranged our remote collaborative work resembled kind of testing ground for a practice whose realization and observation becomes the method and the leading theme. Today, we want to share with you the experience we have collected so far on the way to a new work that we are going to show at the WRO Biennale in Wrocław in the coming fall, in November, and in Helsinki at the Central Library OD. So I'm the curator, co-shaping the synthesis project together with my colleagues, and now I have the pleasure to welcome and introduce them. I have already mentioned the name, Paweł Janicki. Paweł is here next to me. Hello.
Howdy.
Remotely from Finland, there are with us Anna Nykyri, the manager on behalf of the Helsinki Artists Association, the artist, Anna Puhakka, the manager on behalf of the Helsinki Artists Association, Kaisu, Koivisto, welcome, and Marko Tandefelt. So I guess it's time to start to ask some questions. First of all, I would like to focus on this institutional aspect of our collaboration and ask Anna Puhakka, the project manager on behalf of HAA. You joined the project a few months ago. We are, let's say, on halfway to the goal. What were your expectations when you joined the project, and how can you reflect on synthesis? What is also, its impact on the daily practice of the association?
Well, first of all, thank you. Hi, I'm Anna Puhakka, and thank you, Agnieszka, and thank you to everyone at WRO who've made this collaboration and event possible for us to join. So, like Agnieszka said, I started producing synthesis at the beginning of this year. And those of you who don't know what HA stands for, that is very simply put, it's the Helsinki Artists Association. And if it's okay, I'll give a little bit of brief background, which will kind of inform my answer. So, I mean, the Helsinki Artists Association is, we represent approximately 800 professional artists working in all medias of contemporary art in Helsinki. And it's one of the oldest and certainly the largest of all of the artist associations in Finland. And we do a lot of gallery work. So we basically produce exhibitions for approximately 4 different gallery spaces in Helsinki, as well as the Oodi Central City Library, which was built a few years ago, that Agnieszka mentioned, and where the synthesis outcome will be, collaboration will be presented in November this year. The HA also runs an art school with different students from children to adults, and we provide lots of the art lending services, which is a way of providing, accessible, financially accessible art, and as well for people to buy, as well as for artists to present and sell their work, from painting to performance art. And I think has been involved in lots of community outreach projects, as well as a lot of different kinds of collaborations. But I think to answer your question about what synthesis brings to the daily practice of HA, which is quite a large association, is I think it's perhaps it's important to outline that in about 2018 we created our new sort of 10-year strategy. And as a part of that strategy was trying to search for ways to become a more, future-driven, socially, economically, environmentally aware and progressive association that can serve all of our members as well as the city of Helsinki, and work internationally. And as a part of this new change, we started this large-scale project called the HA Europe project, which is actually the wider framework that the Synthesis project is part of. And all these things, this idea of what does a sustainable practice and art world look like to us, and how can HA as an association support and develop these new ways of collaborating and creating art while still being aware of the impact that we as humans have on our environment, has been one of the key components of I think this work, as well as this particularly Synthesis. And on top of this, we've been at the association for the past few years become very aware of the fact that we don't necessarily have the knowledge and the resources to support many of our media artists that are in our ranks. And through our director, Merja Brinon, when the collaboration with WRO was started, and this gave us this opportunity to actually explore all of these different parts of media art that we were not necessarily very aware of beforehand. And if not to find the answers we were looking for, is perhaps we were able to start finding all these new questions that perhaps we should be asking about how we relate to collaboration and creating art remotely. And personally, I believe that HA has entered into this collaboration with a lot of humility and understanding that there's a lot of things that we can be learning from WRO. And it has given us this opportunity to look through a new lens of how do we approach creating new pieces of collaborative artworks. And I'm particularly excited that the WRO curators were found Nykyri and Kaisu Koivisto to chose them to start working on Synthesis. And each of these artists have a long history of working within media arts, but through Synthesis and through Pavel's generosity to let them start working with this patch, it has also become, in a way, a professional development project where they're able to learn new skills. And as Agnieszka said, this COVID-19 has made it very difficult to kind of create art and collaborations and meeting new people and artists very difficult. So for me, the interesting thing has been trying to find, what does this mean? How do we actually communicate? And how do we make this thing that since COVID-19 almost has been a normalization of remote communication? How do those parameters fit into the way that we can produce different kinds of art and projects safely? And as a result of understanding that a large part of this process is navigating coherent communication. So in Synthesis, we are all communicating, first of all, in a second language. So, that gives itself a new kind of level of, potential misunderstandings. And as we are all very aware that communicating on digital formats can lead to a lot of misunderstandings and lots of difficulty, because we're not physical beings anymore. In a way, we have become these sort of avatars of ourselves that have very little physicality, and to be able to relate to each other, not necessarily able to see the micro expressions or the physical way that people move in conversation has been very interesting to see how that affects on things like trust, which is key in any kind of collaboration. And this learning and allowing ourselves to trust virtual strangers, I'm sorry for the pun, but virtual strangers are in very different and changing circumstances while working from home, where there's a lot of easily unwilling participants. We have, there's pets, there's children, there's partners that might be going around in the background. And that's perhaps a risk in creating this collaboration, but sometimes it's a very welcome and humanizing or even funny aspect into remote collaboration and creating this connection with new people. And perhaps because of all of these outlying circumstances, I think the most amazing thing in synthesis has been seeing how this trust between the different artists has been built. And when the choice to, see each other and connect with each other in a physical way has been taken away, the way that the generosity and willingness to openly share, their own creative expression and the way that they work has required a huge amount of trust. And that has been one of the most exciting things to see unfold. And I mean, they all very much are the openness, I think, is very, it's very, very exciting. And the way that they're becoming, it's this kind of engaging with each other becomes very exciting. And maybe perhaps my expectations, which is that your original question, is not necessarily of what is the work, but for me, the excitement is to see how this newly formed sort of resonance between different artists across borders is able to unfold in the future.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for this comment. For sure, this remote way of collaboration is challenging. Is very challenging, and I think that without our initial meeting with already mentioned Maria Brignon, the director of HA, we have an experience of collaborating with her before. It would be just really not possible to create this community, this ephemeral community that we have here within the Synthesis project, that is indeed based on trust, on trust that has been layering with the time. How about you, Paweł? You saved us in a way when we just realized we can't move, we cannot meet, we can't go to the artist studios. So your patch that you wrote as a kind of sketch of a possible artwork really offered us this opportunity. How do you get along also with, this kind of concept of shared authorship and the whole mode of this collaboration that is only possible in this way?
I'm really glad to hear that. And what can I say? So sometimes if you are working on your own project, or maybe not solo, but also group projects, actually any kind of project related to, let's say, technology-oriented art, sometimes you are creating something which is, let's say, reusable. Some kind of artistic tool, for example. Let's say gizmo, sometimes hardware, sometimes software, sometimes different stuff. So if you figure out that this is something which is reusable, you can decide to sell it or share it, but let's say in some way to spread it. And from that point, you are creating, let's say, space for others. And of course, that's only a beginning, because probably typical reaction as, let's say, next step is you're creating this space, but immediately you're trying to fill that space with your own ideas. So that has no sense, actually. So from my point of view, this entire situation with remote work was really, really good because I was a little bit forced to leave the situation, to lose control, to see how other people can work with this gizmo. And another thing, which is really, really nice personally to me, if you are working in this way, if you are allow other people to do some kind of reverse engineering on your creations. After first stage, when people have to just to be acquainted with what we are doing. Probably the next one is they are thinking, okay, so that was nice on beginning, but now I see I can do the same things better. So this is something I really like. I really like to see how talented people are deconstructing what I did, how they make better version. Actually, entire culture is based on continuation. Everything which is really valuable in our culture is not frozen. So for creating this kind of stuff, you have in some way lose your control.
Indeed, thanks a lot, Paweł, for this comment. I think that the issue of openness and the possibility of, let's say, make some concepts, cultural or artistic concepts, travel through time. And this is really very, very crucial. Also for this collaboration now. And just as you said, you provided the space to be filled by talented people. I guess it's time to introduce our artists, Nykyri and Kaisu Koivisto. Since September last year, they are involved in synthesis. Both of them work with video, with photography. They belong to different generations. They have never met before, so actually they met because of the synthesis project. Just as Anna already mentioned, they are now acquiring new skills. They learn to code, they learn to program, because their goal is to create an interactive installation based on synthesis and filled with their own imagery. This is very short introduction. This is a very short introduction. Anna and Kaisu will get their screens for their part in a minute, but I would like to say that since January, we are cultivating our temporary alliance by regularly meeting. We try to meet every 2-3 weeks to observe the processes that are underway. In our collaboration, we also try to find ways to maybe more sustainable way of art production. Of course, I'm not so sure if the carbon footprint left by our Zoom meetings is bigger or smaller when compared if we would travel to Wrocław and to Helsinki. But anyway, we are conscious of that, and we ask ourselves what effects can a post-pandemic regime of limited resources, of inability to travel and direct encounters will have on the idea of exactly co-creation, co-authorship, and cooperation. So there are lots of questions that we ask ourselves. We don't have the answers, but I think it's important to ask these questions and to be conscious that there are some changes needed in the way we approach artistic cooperation. And this is also a part of the synthesis project. So we also observe the processes around art making. Okay, now, Kaisu and Anna, the screen is yours. Please explain what is specifically tempting for you in synthesis project in the context of your practice. We have approximately 5 minutes time of each of you, for each of you is there. So maybe we could start with Kaisu. Kaisu Koivisto, please, the screen is yours.
Thank you, and greetings to everyone from my studio in Helsinki. So you can also visit artist studios in this way as well. taking part in this project was sparked by the possibility of exploring something new and collaborating with people after like months of like being very secluded, as we all know. Most of my projects and exhibitions for 2020 had been postponed or cancelled, so the possibility of joining in Synthesis was very inviting. Unfortunately, the Synthesis workshop together with the Polish team in Helsinki did not happen as planned. But luckily, the project has continued this year in very good circumstances. And it's very much bubbling positively at the moment. A good process, in my definition, is such that it branches out in many directions. My video for the initial screening at the audio library was titled Happy Space, and I think it sums up a lot of interests I have regarding art, like my interest in the environment, technology, and manipulating images in order to create new digitally created environments. I think they are environments as well. The title and the work also has an ironic twist. The psychedelic colors point to something which is maybe not so happy and beautiful. The footage is from Soyuz launch in Kazakhstan. This was in 2012. So I was there on site. So that's also my lifelong, this also shows my lifelong interest in space and space technology. My artistic practice is rooted in places and their histories and transformations and changes. I think Agnieszka pointed out the notion of changes very well in her talk. In this synthesis, I saw the possibility of combining different worlds by merging videos, by making them transform. In this video, I used the possibilities provided by the video editing program, but I can kind of imagine how I could somehow make this into an interactive thing as well, like maybe stopping the rocket from launching or something. Well, that's later. Working and collaborating digitally is something I am really diving deep into at the moment. I think about how digitally created environments respond with the experience and information we have accumulated of places we know and have like visited in a concrete way. Anna's starting points and artistic background are different from mine, and I think this is very good in collaboration. It's not only yes, 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 but we can really bring different elements into the pot. Working with Anna and learning Max, MSP, and synthesis has forced my thinking and ideas away from my usual, a bit linear thing in Photoshop and creating also installations like sculpture and so on. And so a world of happy coincidences and the uncertainties of learning a new way thinking and working has been very, very inspiring. And then we have not been alone on this journey. We have had Marko Tandefelt and Puhakka, who have provided us with lots of information and taught us things concerning Max MSP and interactive video installations, just like from the way back years, long time ago. And a little bit about the footage of these images. These are from the Duga antenna, which is very near to Chernobyl. So this continues my interest in these issues. From time to time, it's a good thing that an artist looks critically at ways of production. In my opinion, the choices of producing should be well grounded in terms of artistic content, and of course you have to think about things like sustainability and so on. A new mode of production and working remotely in several of my projects has opened new possibilities, and I think this is very much this is easier to do with digital projects, because like we can share screens and we can like immediately do things and then show and proceed from that. So all this has been a good start to begin our project. The title is at the moment Defrost, an interactive video installation, which is in process, where both of us have been filming now in the springtime and continue to do so. And we also are using material from our archives. Of course, it's sad that we can't travel and meet you all. And I think today I would rather join you in Wrocław and eat some good Polish food, some bigos and this kind of stuff. But okay, we have to face the facts and use the possibilities we have, like be positive about it, not like crying that, oh no, it's not possible. But Anna and I will talk about these aspects later. So Anna, could you please continue?
Yeah, please, Anna, continue. We try to be short. We are running out of time, so please.
Thank you so much, Kaisu and Agnieszka and Anna. And Pavel as well, nice to meet you for the first time, actually. For me, the tempting part of the synthesis project is definitely creating an interactive video installation with a strong ecological message. And of course, this is on top of the artistic collaboration, which has been going really well with Kaisu, and it's pretty amazing because we, as Kaisu told, we have never met beforehand. So I'm really happy about this. What we're working with at the moment is an installation created especially for a public space, one that would also work as a choreographic environment and also during the COVID times. So this is our goal. And with a choreographic environment, I mean an art piece that would work, that would create a movement within the bodies of the spectators in the public space, but also on the screen. Okay, so what we're seeing at the moment is actually a former short film of mine, which is also an artistic collaboration between different continents. Yeah, so that's a different thing, but it was something that was shown in Audi last year during the first synthesis exhibition. And that is something what was created in 2020 for the Together Alone project by Finnish Cultural and Academic Institutes. And that was something that within this film, I worked in artistic collaboration with curator Andrea Valencia from New York and photographers Augusti Heinonen from Helsinki, Juan Pablo de la Vega from Mexico City, Griselda San Martin based in New York, and editor Jaakko Peltokangas, who is based in Helsinki. So that was definitely an artistic collaboration combining artists from various countries and continents. And it was pretty amazing how we also managed to create a short film in a really short time during the pandemic time. And it's possible, definitely, that showed us it's definitely possible to work remotely. But back to the synthesis project, for me, the patches, coding and programs used to get to the final outcome are secondary. And the ending result is the interactive video installation that we are planning for the Media Art Biennale in Wrocław and in RD Library. That's the first priority. And how would we make it so that it would work in the best possible way for the spectators? So for that reason, I'm super content that we decided to work with Marko and Joaquin also, because they have so many more tools than us with the coding, and they have the skills that we don't yet, but we are trying, we're learning new things. But I think the most important thing is not, as an artist in these times, is not to trying to master everything all alone, but inviting other artists to join for the battle against these hard times.
Definitely. I think that the like collaborative efforts and this idea of co-creation is super important after, especially now. That is also why we have chosen the hashtag community for the very start of the WRO REVERSO. We have hashtags for each part of the Biennale process, and it starts with community. So the sense of community is for sure something that that we are exploring on the way to your new work within the process of synthesis. Please tell me, where are you now? You are experimenting with the patch. We are experimenting with technical devices. I'm super excited always when I hear from you, what you are doing. And actually, it's pure pleasure for me to observe what is happening out there in Helsinki and, somewhere between Wrocław and Helsinki. Where are you now? With the experimentation, I mean, maybe Kaisu could start again.
Our collaboration began really by imagining the work Defrost and what we would like to, how it should be, because we did not have the concrete tools and methods to make it. So as Anna told, it's really, it's no use to do everything on your own. So we have an idea and we want to find the best possible tools to make it. And at the moment we are gathering images and clashing images and getting our materials ready to be processed because there's a limited time. So we are gathering the materials and testing a lot of things, and also the technical properties of both the synthesis and other media cameras and media cameras in connection with patchers in Max MSP.
We just saw a few preliminary sketches, examples of those clashing images, and Anna, I guess you will be also filming you're preparing the new footage for the work. You will be also using your archival footage, right?
Yes, exactly. During the summer, I think we will be busy filming more stuff, and also, I think because we are also focusing on the exhibition in both places, in Wrocław and in Oodi, but also testing Pavel's the patch Pavel has made, synthesis. So I think we will have a lot to do during the rest of the year with this project, and it's amazing to find new tools for your project.
There's really a playful element in it as well. This I enjoy very much. And I think it's important that we have the chance to use the Helsinki Audio Library Media Cube for testing more with synthesis. And this will happen also in November. And maybe it could be a good opportunity to invite more artists to test, because like we are kind of the test persons, and we as test persons can kind of relay this forward. So like not only, of course, the library is open for everyone. It's like really an inclusive space, and this is what I like. And I would like this to be also a very inclusive thing for all the members of the Helsinki Artists Association.
Paweł, could you maybe comment on the process? You see how your work is, sparking new ideas. How do you find it?
Definitely, your approaches are very individual, very different to my own. However, I also see a lot of common fields of interest. For example, for many years I'm interested in space technologies and how to involve them into artistic activities. So I'm really happy that synthesis will be used maybe to launch on stop space rocket. That sounds really incredible for me. And I totally agree that there is really hard to master every possible skill on our field of interest. So working in groups has a lot of sense because we can split tasks. That's always a good idea. Of course, there is some kind of risk involved related to working group. That this risk is related to autonomy, because actually everybody wants to be autonomous, and some kind of craft or skills, practical skills, always give you some part of autonomy. So it's really, I think it's really good idea to constantly grow in skills. So that is what I can say for now.
Yeah, and these growing skills in the case of the synthesis project, most probably would not be growing that fast without Marko Tandefelt, who is with us today in Helsinki. And it's really amazing because Kaisu and Anna in a way found their new locality through this remote process, and that's why they met Marko on the way to realizing this new work and experimenting with synthesis. Marko is a concept designer working with programming technology for more than 20 years. He's an educator and musician and creative technologist. And I would like to ask you, Marko, now to share your comment on the collaboration between Kaisu, Anna, and in a way also remotely Paweł. You surely see or can sense his fingertips, let's say, on this piece of code that you are experimenting on.
Sure. Thank you very much. The collaboration has emerged quite organically between Kaisu and Anna, and we had a 2-day intensive workshop, Joaquin, me, Kaisu and Anna together on all the different aspects of the Macs from ground up and user cameras and Kinects in the system, and creative mapping, multi-sensory possibilities. I'll talk a little bit briefly about that later. So after that, they asked me to be involved with the project, which I was very wholeheartedly welcoming, because I enjoy multidisciplinary co-design, co-concepting types of methods where people have their own roles, but they also sort of are not afraid to cross the boundaries. That's what I've done for a long time at IBM and Parsons School of Design for 15 years, teaching students, kind of like without boundaries. Somebody might call it transdisciplinary design. There's a department at Parsons for that, but I kind of consider, which is really cool, I kind of consider all design and art in a way transdisciplinary, naturally, but that's just me. I've been always very open to the kind of positive collaborations across these kinds of boundaries, and regarding the themes that be in the air, they also resonate to me very deeply. That's kind of like a defrost, bodily related installations and ephemeral poetic layers of visuals, which are often seen in these types of installations. The kind of rich layer of metaphors, naturally the beauty is always in the eye of the beholder. Also the kind of audience roles, like balancing them between kind of spectator, kind of like a viewership, authorship balance is like what's the kind of role and mandate for the audience, and do they feel they're in the middle of an ephemeral thing, ambient thing, or do they feel interfaciness? Are really like complex layered questions that I've been dealing with also with my students for years in Parsons. In a way, what comes to the kind of situation here and kind of, COVID matters, I feel there's like a very weird kind of positive chance for some kind of renaissance, almost like innovation, radical new collaboration, co-design. That's just like medical patents being liberated related to COVID. There's a lot of stuff bubbling in the world, and I'm personally, maybe after 20 years in States, I'm optimistic. Not everybody is. That's one thing. In terms of the kind of resonating interesting aspects and constructive creative challenges in the project, there's a lot of things to balance. I feel kind of passive modes of operation, passers-by, more active uses, single person versus multiple people, kind of how those things are related in sensitive, subtle matters, what kind of cues are utilized in the interaction, or maybe mildly persuasive cues without, again, making the audience or user or experiencer into kind of Pavlovian dog experiment puppet, in a public space. There's a lot of things to think. Also kind of how immersive presence, flow is related, kind of rollover, all of the suggested role of the viewer without coercion. And audience library is a really dear place to me because I actually worked at 18 years old at a library. I worked in Rickardinkatu main library and Pasila, which is a huge library, main library back then. It's kind of like dealing with the wide spectrum of the whole society democratically, rather than maybe, which I respect museums and galleries do, but just the idea that there's a spectrum of the whole society there is a really big thing. At Audi, this is maybe 9th or 10th project, one way or another. It's either I've been there as an artist or producer, whatever, and it's a great library, kind of Willy Wonka space. I hope you guys, I don't know if you have had a chance to visit it, but you should, someday once COVID is over, you should really go there. It's kind of like a wonderland in a way, with all medias present, and also books, but a lot of electronic media. But it also poses its own sort of interesting creative challenges as a space. Anyway, there's a lot more I could go for hours, but I want to, allow other people to talk also.
Thank you, Marko. Actually, well, our time is very limited. I mean, and there is also this temporal aspect in the title of this talk. We have been focusing on past, on our original attempt, on our original plans. This stands for the then. We, let's say, addressed the now, what is happening now, and just as you see, there are lots of positive processes going on. We are aware of, and we have calculated the risk into this situation, because I think we all share this thought that the value is to be found in what we actually do, and I guess that also all these let's say little surprises on the way, all these new skills that you are learning, they are proof that indeed there is value in the now. And the possible future of synthesis, we'll see. The synthesis is ongoing, so we have to wait for the outcome of that process. But anyway, we will we have included this project in the WRO Biennale, titled REVERSO, this way. So this is maybe the reversed way to present a work in progress, a work in process, a work that does not exist instead of a ready work. But I guess this is the only way. This is the only way to go. Anna Puhakka, do you have any thought to share with us after this this meeting? In fact, we have really all met for the first time today, again remotely. How do you feel about the process?
Thank you. I mean, I think one of the things it arrested me in a way while I was listening to Pavel actually talking about this sharing of his artwork. And I think you said it was the liberation of artworks, which in a way was this freedom. And I mean, as we all know, I mean, all art comes from something else that someone else has made. And this kind of continuation is a very natural process. In a way, it's almost like synthesis is like a fast forwarding of a natural process. So you actually get this very clear evolutionary path that I find very interesting. And but that same connection that you've got, that we are in the now, but we're kind of simultaneously in the past as well as in the future. So we're kind of already living in this sort of transient space that doesn't really necessarily have physical form, but is always very physically present in each of us in separate spaces. So a lot of these things are floating around in my head, but I like this idea of let's see how the art gets liberated, and how I like the idea of also that it becomes almost like a process of tandem. So the next person will then get to create from the work that Anna and Kaisu will make, and together with Marko, and see how this all process pans out.
I just love this idea of layering of concepts and ideas that take form of an artwork, popping up in a certain time and space, and this time and space is kind of undefined in this case. Everything happens between the two cities. We were actually lucky with Paweł because we could visit Helsinki together. We already worked in Finland, so we have this kind of imagination. How is it over there? So we would definitely love to have you here and having some bigos or other Polish food, and I guess we are lucky because the pandemic restrictions will slowly be more loose in the course of time. So we might expect to welcome you, Anna and Kaisu, here in Wrocław. Are you looking forward to showing your still unknown work here in Wrocław? Anna, I ask the second Anna Nykyri now.
Absolutely. I think the adventure awaits. Hopefully we'll see you soon as well.
Thank you. Kaisu, I guess this kind of, this personal meeting of all of us, that would be also in a way a true synthesis of, all the months of working together remotely. How do you think?
Well, I'm very positive about the future, and art must go on in any way. In this case, it's via remote working. In the future, something else, but this will definitely, this is a new tool. These are new tools that we are learning, important ones, and collaborating, that's really the thing.
Thank you. Marko, maybe last remark from you. Do you think that, media art or this art using technological tools and possibilities is kind of better equipped for these kind of crises, such a crisis that we are experiencing now?
Well, it's really interesting because like I've been in the middle of several projects such as DEEP, the vibrotactile collective bodily instrument, where we literally had to develop like tools to beta test the system across 3 people having like vibrotactile vests in 3 places and running a max patch from one single place and other people popping in through IP and ports. So we kind of like had to start thinking about like how on earth can we feel what we're supposed to feel in the middle of the kind of like even testing our own installation. And I'm thinking about similar things for here, like which of course a different animal, so to speak. This installation, it doesn't have like 3 vibrating platforms and people with, you know, infra sub vests. But similar how these tools are being bent creatively for the use and how, you know, Zoom and different, you know, online platforms, collaborative paint, just for sketching. Those are some basic elements. The other thing which I found really exciting here in a way that there's sort of like a Lego-like modular, positively addictive middleware kind of template kind of a thing in the bottom of Max and of the synthesis. It's also interesting, a lot of artists think visually heavily. So not necessarily in terms of code, but it's also quite a nice challenge to see like how there's just a different type of work to be done in the visual side and modular side here in this case. So there's a lot of these types of like layered challenges, but I think we're, you know, relatively persistently and in a resolute manner have been pushing through. Also shows the signs or the true colors of people once you're in the middle of things like this.
Exactly. Nevertheless, we all long for personal, direct meeting, and we, I guess, keep the fingers crossed for the outcome of the process, and we keep the fingers crossed for our next meeting in real life. And let's stick to that, and let's hope that the next part of the WRO Biennial, the fall, the part that will take place in autumn, will be the context for this synthesis. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Anna, Kaisu. Thank you, Marko. Thank you, Paweł.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we say goodbye from Wrocław. In half an hour, we'll have another live streaming. So those who are watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Vimeo, please have half an hour of break and then join us again. Thanks a lot.